Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Mesa City Council study session for January 20th, 2022. As you can see, the mayor is not here today. I am filling in. So the mayor and Councilmember Freeman are unable to attend, and they are excused. All the council members are present. Councilmember Thompson is joining us via Zoom, so he's with us. And of course, all the other council members are here. So the first item on the agenda is to review Monday's agenda for Monday, January 24th, a city council meeting. And so we will begin. Council, do you want to start? Yes, Mr. Luna.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I had a question on 5J, and maybe Mary or Mike can come and respond to that. That's the purchase of virtual firefighter recruit exam testing for Mesa Fire and Medical Department.
Good morning. I tried to pawn this off on Chief Camelli. She gave me the, so here I am.
Thanks, Mike.
Councilmember Luna, on 5J, this virtual firefighter recruit testing, this is something that we've been looking at for a while, and it's finally come to fruition for us. The process that we use to hire firefighters, the written process, hasn't changed since I went through the process in the early 80s and when Councilmember Freeman was there. So we're looking, right, this is a holistic look at how we hire our people, how we can bring more diversity to the organization and reach out to people that aren't our neighbors. So with this virtual testing, we're hoping to partner with the NTN, National Testing Network, where anybody across the country, wherever you live, you can go take that test. It's secure. And we are hoping that this will help with our diverse applicants. The city of Mesa, we will be paying for that. That's where the $60,000 comes in. So we had to cap the number of applicants that we could use. This system of testing is being used more and more around the country. I do believe the town of Gilbert's using it as well. And so it's about $55 per applicant. But if an applicant has already signed in and is tested with Gilbert, that charge to us would be less than that $55.
So how does that work out in terms of marketing? How are you going to get this information out to potential recruits out there that are interested in being part of Mesa?
And that goes back to the full prong. So about a year ago, we approached Mr. Pombier about a position within the fire department that's focused solely on recruitment, right? Mm-hmm. Wearing this uniform every day, we're out recruiting. They see us, we're a billboard. Our fire trucks are billboards. But to affix this responsibility to one person, and we've selected engineer Mike Guillardo, has a lot of experience. He's been in his spot for probably 6 months now. Made a lot of contacts across the community. He's been down to Southern Arizona, all the EMT classes here in the Valley, sports teams, other ways of getting the word out. One of the other things he's going to do, and this is coming up here the 1st of February, is Facebook Live. So we're advertising this. Back in the day when I tested for firefighter, I filled out a little 4x5 card and submitted it, and I got it back in the mail when it was time to apply. Those days are gone. Mm-hmm. So now we are reaching out from coast to coast. Mm-hmm. And time will tell to see if this is beneficial to us, mm-hmm. but we do think changing the model and the days of number 2 pencil sitting mm-hmm. at the convention center are long gone, mm-hmm. and we can leverage technology and test people where they live mm-hmm. and take that burden off of them.
So will you be working with, for example, Mesa Community College, EVIT, for example, letting them know that this test will be available
yes.
and potentially recruit some potential firefighters from those groups?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Well, thank you. I think it's a great idea. I think this is our ability to cast a wider net, trying to bring more people into the Mesa Fire Department.
And that's what we're looking for, right? We need to break the mold of
mm-hmm.
whatever vision you have of a firefighter. We want people who are dedicated to their community and want to serve mm-hmm. and whatever they look like or mm-hmm. wherever they come from. As long as they're dedicated to that, we'd like to take them.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate your leadership.
Absolutely.
on this. Thank you.
Mike, I have one question
Yes, ma'am.
before you get up, and as well as I want to open it up to other council members if they have any comments or questions on this item. So my question was, so this, is it a test pilot? Is this a permanent or a temporary measure? I mean,
We're hoping that this is permanent. Again, Chief Kameli and I have talked about this for years, and that we've done it a certain way, and it's very easy, right? Every 2 years we test, so we partner with a testing agency, and we order 1,000 booklets, and they deliver them, and we all end up at the convention center. But as Chief Kameli and I have talked, and others in the organization, that's got to change. I mean, just to leverage the technology alone, but if you take somebody who is unable to afford a trip to Mesa, Arizona from somewhere in Georgia or New York or Florida, wants to be a firefighter, we're fixing that problem. Now, they will have to come back for an oral interview if they do well enough on the test, but it cuts down on the amount of travel, the amount of expense that somebody is incurring in order to take that step to become a firefighter.
wonderful.
So again, right, we don't know what it's going to look like 4 or 5 years down the road. If it's paying dividends, we certainly hope it is. I'll be long gone by then, but I'll make sure that Chief Kameli keeps me updated on how we're doing with that.
Great, thank you very much.
Anybody else?
Other items on the agenda, council?
One is 5A. I see we're ordering vehicles, and part of that vehicle buy is some electric and hybrid vehicles. What's the status of the internal kind of grid that we developing on electric vehicle charging stations? Is that capacity moving forward or increasing as we buy more these hybrid electric vehicles?
Yeah, thank you, Vice Mayor, Councilman Reddy. That's certainly right now the biggest challenge we have to the conversion to electric is it's both the availability of the vehicles, but it's also just the infrastructure to be able to support it. And so internally, we're going through that conversation. It'll be probably a big part of our discussions in this upcoming budget. Because when you think about it, our focus on the conversion to electric is really going to be focused on the utility pickup trucks. Mm-hmm. We have anywhere from 400 to 500 of those. That's our biggest footprint impact on the carbon footprint in the city is our pickup trucks, our utility pickup trucks. So our focus is trying to figure out then how do we serve those overnight to recharge those. Sure. And that's going to be a significant infrastructure that we're going to have to stand up. And so, yeah, even though we are able to buy some of these vehicles and we can accommodate some of them, frankly, from a truly impactful, it's not specialized equipment, it's going to be the utility trucks. And so our conversation internally is as those become available through Ford and Chevy, it's great if we can buy them, but if we don't have the ability to connect them and to recharge them, and again, they're parked overnight in several different places.
Sure.
So that's a big challenge that we have to work on. It's not just the buying something that may be available, is then how do we charge it? Because some of those vehicles will literally run almost all day long. They're not necessarily always moving on the street, but for a variety of purposes, they may be on all day. Sure. So that's a challenge that we're having internal discussions, and we'll have to come back to council and talk about how we're going to stand up that infrastructure.
All right. Yeah, no, I think it's a positive step, but I know it's a year's progress, multiple year progress to provide the capacity to be able to service these vehicles, right? So, thank you. And then on 5B, just want to highlight this. I think as we've initiated additional opportunities in the Asian district, this is another branding effort that we're having, and I want to just thank Jay and the economic development team. And then we do have a steering committee of businesses in the Asian district that's been helping review applications, and we just launched a RFQ for mural projects in the Asian district, but this is one of many to come, providing additional signage of this area of town that I think we want to continue to highlight in Mesa. So just wanted to give a shout out there.
Thank you.
Councilmember Thompson, you have a question?
We do have
I
one.
do, thank you. Going back to the electric vehicle topic, Chris, before we get too far down the road on buying electric vehicles, can you put a presentation together on what, because of the amount of time that we hold our vehicles in Mesa, I'd like to see some type of plan on what we plan to do with the batteries, if the batteries, go past their life cycle and have to be replaced. How do we dispose of the batteries? And also from a fire perspective, fire containment. Because if those batteries do catch on fire, I'm sure we don't want a whole bunch of electric vehicles parked next to each other, because that would be an absolute nightmare if all of them caught on fire because one caught on fire. So really I'm looking for disposal, ideas, and how we deal with fire containment on those vehicles.
Okay. Then, Vice Mayor, Council, we do have on 5O, we have a presentation, so whenever you're ready for that.
I just have one
Okay.
question on the 5B, which is the Asian District signs. I was curious what they look like. Are they flags, illuminations, or? Yeah, I guess, Jay, will there be images? I guess this is the beginning to figure out exactly what that looks like, and this is the budget, or where are we on that?
Vice Mayor and council members, thank you for the question. We actually have a great sign package already put together, and it's based on the logo, which is the tangram, if you recall. Happy to bring that back to you and show you the signage that's planned. We have banner sets that are planned for all along Dobson Road between Main and Broadway, and then a few banner sets that will go on Main Street as well, just sort of welcoming you into the district. So the banner sets will also be promoting the pillars of the Asian District brand, which is culture, community, and commerce. And then we will also have traffic signal wraps at 5 or 6 intersections. And then we'll have large, oversized banners that will be affixed to various properties in the district as kind of a temporary hold for the murals that will eventually be introduced to the district. And those we will probably do in 2 phases. We'll have a spring installation phase and then a fall installation of murals that are developed hopefully by local artists of various sizes depending on what the private property owners will want. And then we also have larger fabricated signs that will be part of phase 2. We just need to determine what those will look like and where those will go before we have a signage contract finalized for that.
Wonderful. Now, for the Asian District, just for those that are listening, for this initial sign package, is this on Dobson between Main and Broadway primarily, as far as you said, phase 1?
Correct.
That's where we'll see it?
Correct.
And when do you expect it'll be installed?
The banners, assuming everything's approved on Monday, the banners should be able to be installed between 4 to 6 weeks, so mid-March
Oh,
at the latest.
great. Look forward to it. Okay, thank you. So next item, 5O, talking about the post.
Yeah, we have a band of experts to come forward.
So the Post is the historic post office in downtown Mesa on McDonald, on North McDonald. It's been vacant for a very long time. I don't know, at least over 20 years, I want to say. So I'm looking forward to seeing it have some use for our community, have a benefit for our community, and seeing the renderings for it. Thank you.
So good morning, Vice Mayor and Council. As Vice Mayor mentioned, we're here to talk about the Post, which is, if you drive by it today, is actually has a sign on the side that says Federal Building, and you might see that in prior bond documents if you're referring to this building. It actually was the U.S. Post Office in downtown Mesa for many years. This is the building, the way it sits today, kind of looking towards the southwest. The north building was built in 1936, the south building in 1959. It is two separate and buildings just set up against each other, so there's two walls between the buildings. It is about 22,000 square feet. It's been a project we've been working on for a while, and we got some pretty exciting graphics to go through and show you what we're going to be doing in the building. I brought along with me Jeff McVeigh from our downtown group, Allison Stoltman from our museums, and Andrea Moore with Parks, Recs, Community Facilities, and they're going to, in a little bit, walk you through what we're going to do inside the building when we're done, which is kind of the exciting part. Just a reminder that we redeeded the building back in 2002 through the federal government and the National Park Service. It does come with restrictions on the deed. We have to, we can't sell it, lease it, or assign it to anybody but another government agency. It must be used for a public purpose and open to the public. The city must manage or book events in the building. And we have to put a small sign in it saying that it was a property as a recreation area acquired from the federal government. So there are some restrictions on it over time. This is actually an old photo from the original application with the federal government. So this is if you peeled off the east wall of the building and you're looking in the building, and it's only just for orientation, so when everybody starts talking about programming, you kind of know where you are. This is the north building on the right, the south building on the left, and the shared wall. And I'm just going to kind of point out that connection between the two walls, because when we come back and talk about infrastructure, we're going to talk a little bit about that. This is the basement where the museums will be taking that space. This first floor, which will be Parks, Rec, Community, and Facilities. The second floor, which will be our downtown groups. So just to orient you to the building. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Allison.
Hi, so I'm going to be focusing on two rooms that are going to be dedicated to the collections of the Arizona Museum of Natural History, and to just give you an idea of what the collections consist of. Our museum serves as the custodian of the city's heritage. So that's from historic to prehistoric interest we hold in perpetuity for the community, archaeological, historical artifacts, and objects of natural history, including fossils. We are a working research institution, not just a repository, and these objects are used in research, not only conducted by our museum, but by many visiting researchers. And with this in mind, our collections must be carefully stored for their preservation and also for access, for use, with lab tables and workstations in each room. On a normal year, we have between 30 or 40 visiting scientists, and that may not appear significant in number, but considering the few scientists that actually work in this field, this is actually substantial. And between them and the museum's research, we add to a great deal of the body of science in our particular fields. And visiting scientists come from all over the nation. We've had recently Houston, Washington, as well as, of course, our local universities. And then international visitors, Mexico, Europe. So despite the pandemic last year, we still had 21 visiting researchers. And in addition to the visiting scientists, we provide internships for local colleges. And a great many students have gained valuable experience using our collections, being mentored by our curators and collection managers, and now they've gone on to become scientists in their own right. So I have many more examples of students using our collections for their research to complete a master's and doctorates. So this is an important resource that aids in the generation of future scientists. Previously, researchers have been limited in using our collections because those collections that were housed in the historic post office were largely inaccessible. But with the building renovation and the reorganization, the whole collection will be available for scientists and students. And additionally, that area is also ADA compliant. So that's an important point for our accessibility initiative. Our current archaeology lab is not and cannot be modified to accommodate. So the next bullet point, sorry, if you can go back, still on the bullet. Got a couple more things to say. The event storage, that's going to be for the community space on the first floor as tables, chairs, and Andrea can talk more about that if you have questions about that. And then the final two bullet points involves museum programming. So we run monthly paleontology nights and run other small programs where we can offer demonstrations in that space. And then behind the scenes tours, it's a wonderful opportunity to showcase to our potential funders what we do. And we're also increased our offerings to donor level memberships to include behind the scenes experiences. So this is not just in an effort to give more interesting offerings, but really be more transparent and to explain what we do with their funding. So you can go to the next slide now. Thanks.
It's not, there we go.
There we go.
We went past it. It's a little slow this morning.
So the two rooms labeled museum storage on the right, the anthropology and paleontology collections will be divided up into those two rooms, and cabinetry and shelving will be installed according to the object specifications, the conservation requirements, and museum best practices. For example, we'll be including fireproof, waterproof filing cabinets for the archival materials. We have a lot of historic photographs and paper documents. Small items are going to be kept in banker boxes, and large items placed directly on shelves. We are seeking grants and external funding sources to install high-density mobile shelving units, and these are shelving carriages that roll on tracks, so you can move all of the shelves up to one end, and that furniture would increase significantly our storage capacity. So this is to account for expansion. Right now, we can start with our traditional static shelving. To manage access, secure security system will record whoever's entering and leaving the building, and we'll have locks on our collections rooms. The large elevator is essential for transporting our big paleontology specimens. Some of them are as big as 3 tons, and we have pallets of artifacts. So the double doors to each collections area will allow for the big heavy-duty pallet jacks to pass through. In order to mitigate agents of deterioration, we'll use our standard monitoring equipment with Conserve. Conserve uses wireless sensors to record data on humidity, temperature, light, and the system sends out alerts if any of these environmental conditions go beyond the parameters. And then, of course, standard integrated pest management strategies employed to avoid that sort of damage from our smallest of foes. And then finally, the fire sprinkler system will have a pre-action. This is really important. In this system, water is not contained in the pipes, but is held back by a pre-action valve. And this reduces the chance of leak. Once fire is detected, then the pre-action valve opens and the water runs through the pipes to the sprinkler heads. Last year we had a couple of leaks, one in the historic post office, and that flooded the floor. We had another leak in the museum with a pre-action system, and just a few drops of water were released. So we believe that with these measures, that will ensure the safety of these objects under our care, and we'll be responsible stewards, custodians of the past for our future generations.
One moment, Councilmember Luna, I'm sorry. I'm looking at Thompson.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Thank you, Allison. This is a great idea because when I visited and toured the museum, and especially the archaeological section of it with Dr. Bob, I was really concerned about that building. And having this space is going to be a wonderful addition to ensure that we preserve these objects that are thousands and thousands of years old. And your staff have put a lot of work in collecting these objects and trying to preserve them. And we do need a space. This is an ideal location. I'm pleased to learn about the humidity controls, those safety controls to make sure that we can preserve them for generations and generations to come. But this is a real important part of how we preserve and remember Mesa, how it was many, many years ago. And so I appreciate your leadership in ensuring that we continue to preserve these important fossils and these artifacts. And if you ever have a chance, I invite the public, once this is done, to really tour it, because it's really amazing what the museum has done over the years, and given the limited space. And so I'm assuming you'll move all the artifacts from the current building over to this new space and give you enough space to invite potential archaeologists and anthropologists to come in and view some of our specimens as they further their studies. It's a great educational opportunity, not only for Mesa residents, but for those in the valley and as well as the state. So thank you for doing this. I'm excited to see what's going to happen with that, and best of luck.
Thank you very much. Yeah, this will be a game changer for us.
So let me just clarify, though. This space was already being used for storage. It's been moved out so that, one, it could get cleaned up and the inventory could be cataloged and be better cared for, because before it was just stacked in boxes that were collapsing on themselves. The annex where Dr. Bob works is, we're not going to empty that out, right? We are going to bring back artifacts into this space again, but under Allison's leadership, it's going to be better curated, or I don't know if that's the right word, but
It's
organized,
and
shelving, and so we can get to it. Before, it was just boxes on boxes, and it just was unacceptable. So the benefit of us being able to go in and spend money on this building, it's benefiting the basement, right? Because now we can do the systems for the whole building, and while we're doing that, we've been able to clear out. I was a little embarrassed to show that first slide of the cut through, because you could see kind of the things stacked on top of each other in the basement. But that's all been cleared out, so we can get the contractor in there and clean things up, and then we'll come back in and really have a better accessible, organized, I don't want to use the word
rehousing.
inventory. What is the right word?
Yeah, that's correct.
Collection,
Correct.
that we can have the collection there, yeah. So.
Yeah. Our rehousing is our paramount of importance, to keep these artifacts and objects under the care that they should be.
So the annex building is the building across the street on the west side of the McDonald? So you're retaining the use of that, and then we'll be using the
Yes.
basement of the post.
That's
as well.
correct. There are some of the paleontology materials that currently they're being housed outside or under conditions that are not ideal, as Councilmember Luna referred to. So those will be moved into the historic post office. Some areas of the annex will remain as vaults.
Allison, really, we're returning much of the collection back to the basement.
Correct.
It was there before, right?
Correct.
So it's not like it's new capacity. We're creating the systems and improving the space in the basement so we can bring back some of what was already there.
That's correct. Some of it was being housed outside, though, because we didn't
Oh,
have
no,
the
I agree,
ability
but there
to
was
get
a
inside.
lot of boxes in there
Yes.
previously.
Yes.
That's what I'm speaking to.
Yeah.
So it's not, we're going to bring back a lot of things that were already there before, but they just weren't in great conditions, and we didn't have the shelving, we didn't have the climatization and things like that.
Good morning, Vice Mayor and Council. The main floor, the first floor, very exciting to say we're going to be able to activate it and invite the public in, and a very usable space for all sorts of community activities. So I think the time that we've taken to brainstorm all the different possibilities for this building, I think we've arrived at a really nice mix of activity. So that main floor is 2 rooms that can be opened up into one large room. And just to give you some perspective, because this is moving in under our convention center staff and our activity there as a commercial facility, but those 2 rooms together are slightly larger than the Palo Verde room, so where we have breakfast with Santa and lots of receptions and things like that, and also the Superstition Room in the convention center over in Building A. So it's a little bit bigger than that, but our focus here is going to be community-based events, much more so than the conventions and conferences that we focus on in the convention center. So at the Post, we're hoping to have social activity in there, daytime meetings, nighttime community use, neighborhood use, weekend receptions, all sorts of activity like that. We have hired a booking and sales specialist now who's getting ready to put together what our marketing plan is for this and get the word out that once construction's done, we're able to start booking it. That timeline's still being worked out. But I think it's really an exciting space. And the images that you see there, it's very inviting. We've created the ADA access so that you can have all sorts of different types of activities happening in there. We have lighting and sound support, projection ability in those 2 rooms. There's an air wall that separates them that can be moved out of the way. There's a support kitchen, so it's not a full kitchen, but if folks want to have an event catered, that kitchen's there to support it. There's restrooms on the back that can be configured to have different access points so that we can keep certain areas of the building secured and open other parts of it for community events. There's, so that divider between the north and the south area, that's where that air wall is going to be. And we'll have different, Allison mentioned the storage in the basement. We have different types of tables and chairs that we're intending to stock in there so that we can have all different types of events, from meetings that are more business focused to maybe wedding receptions or family parties, things like that would be more festive. We're looking at that, I think, based on the timeline of, because you're looking at the GMP approval with your council agenda, so about a year from now, approximately, as we work through what that schedule looks like.
Morning, Vice Mayor, Council. With this build out, we're also looking to complete a build out of the 2nd floor, which is currently just an empty open space that's served by an internal stairs from the 1st floor. The intent of that build out would be to convert it into office space that would house the Downtown Transformation work group, as well as the office staff from the Downtown Mesa Association. You can go to the floor plan. Those offices will be served by a new outboard addition to the building. Because the building doesn't currently have good ADA access or elevator access, this is where we will have the elevator as well as stairs to the basement and 2nd floor. There's also a small mezzanine area that will have a larger conference room space that's going to be available to have board meetings as well as host other city staff can hold meetings there as well. This is around 5,000 square feet that will house about 10 employees from the city, 4 from the city, 6 from DMA, as well as has capacity for some growth of around 8 staff, depending on where we go into the future.
So as we move forward, talk a little bit about infrastructure. I just got some pictures showing what it is today, what we hope that it will look like in a year from now. We do have to change accessibility to the building. The south entrance will still be kind of the primary entrance, but we need to get ramps that meet current standards. The north entrance will remain and be available for when, like Andrea mentioned, we split the 2 spaces. We're going to be refreshing some of the landscaping out front, and Mr. Brady's favorite, we're going to be refreshing the flagpole in the corner.
Can't get rid of a flagpole. I mean,
It
was a post office.
So we'll be refreshing the flagpole. This is the west elevation of the building today. We are going to be retaining part of the loading dock for potential future space that I'll talk about a little bit here later. Just note that we're adding some space to the exterior on this side to house our elevator and stairway corridor for separate accesses up and down that does need a new elevator, and we do need it to be accessible. So that's what you see in that photo. Standing inside of the north building right in the center, looking to the northeast, this is the existing walls as they sit today, which is like brick, and in the days that this building was built, they reused everything. So there's all different kinds of brick in this building. And then between the brick and the plaster is actually like a red tile, clay tile. And then the plaster itself. In different areas, we're gonna be stripping that off to expose the character of the building, where we have brick exposed on one wall. Where we can and keep it stable and structural, the red clay tile that you see on some other walls. Another interesting thing here is that the building was built with an opening in the roof where I think they probably lifted in old heavy equipment for the post office operations. We're going to be lifting that roof and creating a clear story with some windows to provide light into the building and assist with getting a little brighter in the space. This is standing in the south building looking towards the northeast, and it's looking at that space that Andrea described where there is a wall, those two walls that come together. We'll be installing a structural frame so that you can make it the space a little bit larger, and then there'll be removable partition or movable panels in here so that she can separate the spaces and host two different events at the same time. This is moving to the kind of the southwest corner. And I just want to mention really quickly, we'll be redoing all the flooring, but you can see this is where we're building in to get the elevator and the stairway corridor, so there'll be a wall here. This wall is, the building is pretty unique because in the north section of the building there is this old wood plank flooring. We had the contractor remove some of that and actually refinish it. It's beautiful. We'd like to preserve some of that old flooring. We're going to be putting it on the wall though, so people can see it, and it'll be this wall that we're.
It's going to be.
Do that.
It could be really cool. So
it's going to look good.
We're excited about that.
Yeah. Second floor, it's hard to get pictures on the second floor because it's kind of a little bit of a worn, but existing offices up there today. This is just a view of the conference room that we'll be putting up on the second floor so that the downtown staff can meet with other downtown owners and different agencies that work in the area, as well as park staff has a couple of offices on this floor for managing the building and the events that occur. So they're on site and available during events, and they have this space available to them too. So here's
on that slide, on the background of the proposed conference room, it looks like old post office boxes. Are you? No. What is that?
So what we're doing is we're in the back when it was a post office, there was actually a mezzanine that had a viewport out where they could watch the staff on the floor.
Oh, okay.
It was a different era. But today we're going to replace and put windows in and then put a screen behind it so if there are activities occurring down below, that if there's a meeting in the conference room, the two have separation and don't conflict, but you still get light.
Yeah, we wanted to have some light in there, otherwise it was just going to be a big shoebox.
Dark.
So,
I love the screen kind of emulates the shape of old post offices.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does look that way.
Okay,
It's a
thank
good
you.
point. Thank you, Vice Mayor. And then this is something else we're doing. We need to sign the building with its new name. We've looked at a variety of different options. We chose the neon sign on the southeast corner of the building on top so that you can see it from Main Street. It's angled, so you can see it from both Main Street and other parts of the downtown, and it's elevated. And then we'll have separate office signages for the downtown offices in the back of the building. So just so people know where to go and wayfinding.
That will unlikely be the actual address, though.
Yeah.
26 3/4.
26 3/4. So, and then one final slide before I talk about costs, and that is there is a parking lot to the west of the building. It's our hope in a future project, we're starting to do concepts now where we might turn this into an outdoor gathering space for, to interact with the indoor spaces and still use that part of the loading dock maybe as a small stage or some other type of activity that we could do in this area. So that's the future plans.
Yeah, that's not in this current estimate. We'll
It's not
come
in the
back
estimate.
on that, so.
It'd be cool if there's some kind of green space. Well, I mean, because we use McDonald as a festival area
Yep.
now.
Yep.
So that's a hard asphalt
Yep.
and everything to have that to balance.
And this would open it to
We'll
the
see.
back and the front, so it could be a two-side, more of an open building, two-sided. Andrews having events inside, they can spill into the outside, and it can be a bigger event, longer term. So finally, we get to the costs, and we are at about a $10.7 million total project. We have 2012 bonds and 2018 bonds with inflation, and then we added scope to put new offices in this building because we do need the space for downtown offices. It's about $2.5 million in general fund from the capital general fund. So that's where we are today, and if it's all acceptable, it's on the Monday council agenda for approval. We will start construction as soon as I can get contracts signed, and we are looking about a year because this building does have an elevator in it, and those do take a little more time.
So as people rent out this space and pay to use it, then where does that money go?
Just like it does today, when do parks rentals,
For
it goes into the
convention or
general fund,
anything,
yeah.
just back to the general fund, okay.
Other questions? Councilmember Luna?
Vice Mayor. Thank you. This is a great idea. I know that in 2014, when I was on council then, which is a while back, we had been talking about utilizing this space, but I think this use is certainly going to be more beneficial for our community, combining both parks as well as downtown as well as our museum. So I would be in support of this wonderful project. I can't hardly wait till it's done because we've been talking about this for quite a while. So yeah, it's a great idea. So I'm going to be supportive.
Anything else? Otherwise, I'll go ahead with my comments. First of all, we desperately need a community space in the downtown. There's so many events and gatherings, and people ask, where can we hold it? We want to be in downtown. And, they're not large enough to do a convention center space, and the library certainly wouldn't be large enough so that in between for the community. So I think it's really something that we need, especially for our city our size, to have something like this available in the downtown. I'm very supportive of it, and I think it will be used widely. The one question I had about the Downtown Mesa Association and them moving their offices in there, I know one of the problematic situations about that consideration was what do they do with their maintenance equipment, and how will that be accommodated?
Vice Mayor, Council, the Downtown Mesa Association has a fairly, from a staffing perspective, they have significantly more staff that's out on the street doing clean and safe. So their field crews will continue to occupy 100 North Center, where the building is today. That's where they also house their equipment that they need. They also have a storage yard for some of their larger equipment. So they'll continue to occupy that space, and so we don't want to mess up the back area that could become a nice outdoor public space with outdoor storage, so they're gonna maintain those.
So they'll be split then.
Okay, so they'll retain their existing building that they're in now and use it for the maintenance
But the
portion
admin
and
side
the
will
field
move in.
staff.
Yeah.
And
And
it'll
this
also-
will just be for the administrative staff.
It'll be beneficial long-term, because as downtown, as our population grows, as activity grows, their field crew is going to have to grow as well. And so it actually is beneficial to have a space for the field crew separate from the administrative staff.
Excellent. I really love the design and how the space is utilized. So I'm looking forward to it. Thank you. Jeff, I think the next item on the agenda is covering, oh yeah, the studios.
Yeah, so
An
we get
update on that.
Jay and Jeff up here.
So that's item 2A on the agenda.
I just had one quick question.
One moment before we could jump into that, Councilmember Spilsbury has a question on the agenda.
Yeah, I just wanted, on 5Q with our Off the Streets program, so is this particular item just in reference to what we talked about last week with
Yeah.
the increase and the,
It's just extending the services.
okay. Oh, but so are we just extending the exact same amount or are we increasing the amount of rooms and services? I know we were adding pet stuff.
Right, I think we're
So-
continuing the same program. Just
Okay,
continue to
so
fund
this
it.
is not an increase though?
As far as the number of rooms? No,
Yes.
it's not.
Okay, we talked about that with the ARPA funds though, correct?
We are looking at, that's some, yeah, this is to continue keeping
Okay,
going
so
what we
this
have.
is just the continuation,
Yeah.
but not the like newer stuff we were gonna
No,
add to
we'll
the-
bring that'll come on separate.
Okay.
This is, we want to just continue to maintain those, or keep those rooms available, I guess is a better way of saying it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So we'll proceed with item 2A on our study session agenda. And it's a presentation to provide direction of the development of a small business lab within the studios at Mesa City Center using the American Rescue Plan Act funds. So Jeff, take it away.
Good morning, Vice Mayor, Council. It's a new presentation, so I had to move seats just to. We are here to talk about what is our next phase at the studios, the Mesa Small Business Lab. But before we get into that, we have Jay O'Donnell, Economic Development Deputy Director, and Justin Eisner. I don't know if you met Justin, but he's our engineering project manager on the phase 1, and we'll be on phase 2 as well. Before we go into the reason we're here to talk to you about the Small Business Lab, first we wanted to give you an update as to where we are in phase 1. This building is, what a transformation. It is a beautiful building. I would be happy to take anybody that goes through after you see these pictures, because the last time you went through, it's come a long way since then. Now, the one thing, the landscaping, it's winter, so landscaping is going to take a little bit while to green up, but it is being installed today. This is a nice shot of the new exterior with the new 2-story glazing for the lobby, the new plinth with the outdoor seating area. I'll have a shot later with it lit up at night, but this has been a real nice, it has a very strong presence on the street now that it didn't before. From the inside, the new 2-story lobby, as you can see, what used to be there was just an open outdoor patio space. Originally it had a fountain and some seating area. Today it's a new terrazzo flooring, a huge amount of glazing that really kind of creates a beacon on the corner. And the original historic pendant lighting that was in there have been refurbished and now are nice LED lights. I wish I had pictures of it before we started demolition, because even at demolition, it looks like there's more light in this building than there actually was before that. But this is the new community event space. This is the large event space that will be available to host community events, but mostly, for ASU when they're holding their entrepreneurial and innovation events. This is where that will happen. This is on the first floor, right off the lobby. On the picture on the right, you're looking to the south towards the ASU building, where we have 2 large panels of what used to be the brick wall that we removed to have glazing added. That increased the natural light in this building significantly, as well as just creating floor-to-ceiling glazing on the east wall. That's going to become a common theme as I go through this. Again, floor-to-ceiling glazing on the north wall. Now we're looking at the open collaboration space. In this building, you're looking towards the east, towards the 2-story lobby. One of the great highlights here is we wanted to continue to highlight those historic terrazzo spiral stairs. This gives from about midway into the building what the view of that stairway and lobby is. I think this is Chris's favorite view in the building. I consider this my favorite view, and it's just the same spot looking towards the west now. This is the open meeting area, created a small conference room on the south side, as well as this is the entrance to the new 2-story outboard restroom core. By creating that outboard core, we actually freed up about 1,500 square feet of space inside the building that was not very usable. So it allowed us to create a much more open and flexible space to be used.
So Jeff, why is this your favorite view?
It's that original brick. So originally,
the brick. Okay, all right.
When you're in this,
You need to be a really close
Wow.
to appreciate it.
Zoom in.
It's not the fact that it leads to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
I didn't think it was outdoor bathrooms.
They are nice bathrooms, so.
I don't know, it's hard to zoom in. If you can
You
zoom
can
in
zoom
on,
in on
if you
our
zoom in on your,
presentation.
yeah, your presentation,
You can see it,
the
it's
bricks.
really pretty.
That brick was covered in plaster originally.
Yeah, it's-
And by exposing it, it has made such a nice contrast to the old and new, that's just beautiful. On the south side of the building, this is the open work area, so you're looking back towards looking back towards those spiral stairs, so that at many points in the building, you have that view to the spiral stairs. We also reused back in when IT was here, they had these original lockers that you could check out things. I don't even know what you were checking out, whether it's computers or IT equipment in general, but you had a keypad that you typed in and a door popped open. So we found a way to repurpose those lockers to be used in the building. New break room area. This is, I think, generally where the restrooms were that we've
Correct. This
captured.
was the
This is the
original
floor area.
on the first
So this is what we captured by moving those restrooms out. This will, once it has furniture, this will have configurable tables that you can make several bistro style, or you can bring them together and have collaboration space. Currently, we are finishing up right now. But for furniture, this building would be essentially done. Looking at February, March, end of February, beginning of March to finish. Total construction, we were at $7.2 million. And we ended up with about 9,700 square feet of finished space. We will still be coming back to council with our license agreement with ASU, currently in ASU's hands doing their legal review. And we're going to be happily hosting council on March 3rd for your strategic planning session in the collaboration space. Now?
So is the strategic planning session, will that be open to the public as
Oh, yeah.
far as physically? Oh, okay, so people could come in and see the space?
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah,
listen to our session?
it'll be, I don't know if we'll be doing tours, but we'll have, the strategic planning session of council is open to the public, so people can come into there. I guess we'll have to see, I think we just want people coming into that area. If people want to come and take a tour, we can walk them around. Because really, we've been able to complete the first floor, and it'll be completed. The second floor is kind of a warm shell. It's not, and that's what we're talking to you about today, as well as the basement. So it's still a little dark and kind of, they're not finished out spaces. But the first floor will be finished out. It's carpeted, painted. We hope to have some furniture by then. We'll see.
On slide 4, what are those curtains? Are they to block out light or to divide space?
Divide the space.
Those are actually acoustical curtains. They're
Okay, that's what
very-
I was wondering, because they don't seem like they would do a lot of good, but okay, so.
They're not
acoustical.
gonna create two separate spaces where you could have two amplified activities happening at the same time, but they're thick enough and heavy enough that if you had two separate working groups going and they were having non-amplified, that it would.
Yeah, because when you walk
Okay.
into the space, it's just wide open.
Yeah.
And with big columns and glazing, and so this is just a way to kind of break it up and maybe, I guess, break up some of the sound that could be traveling around, but it's just a creative way of kind of dividing the space a little bit.
Okay.
And then the last thing that I wanted to point out before I hand over to Jay, it's not necessarily too easy to see in this one, but if you remember when we first were going through this, we were talking about some of the historic elements of the building. One of the major historic elements were those concrete wavy canopies off the back of the building. We preserved remnants of those canopies that we took down, and we created a entry monument feature right here. It's currently still in mock-up phase where the lighting isn't in its permanent setting, but these are remnants, wavy remnants that will have another one on the other side where we're just finishing up the concrete pad. So it'll have one on each side of the entry sidewalk. They're actually they're really interesting too. Now that I'm done bragging about what we've accomplished, Jay can brag about what we'd like to accomplish.
More to come. Mayor and council, thank you for allowing us to be here today and talk about Phase 2. I'm sure that many of you know that small businesses are still struggling, some certainly more than others due to the pandemic and the ongoing pandemic. So there's still a great demand for services and support, and probably always will be. Even before the pandemic, the Office of Economic Development has assisted entrepreneurs and startups and small businesses, and we will continue to do that, and obviously have in an enhanced capacity over the last couple of years. Just as a reminder, we have launched the Mesa Business Builder Technical Assistance Program this fiscal year, and that was really the follow-up or the continuance of the Mesa Cares program that we executed with the CARES dollars. So this program provides one-on-one business consulting, group classes, webinars, computer classes, website development, and many other services. So as the city, along with our partners, we're delivering much of this content online and virtually. So the training and the consultation is done online, which has worked very well, and we've been really forced to do it that way, obviously because of the pandemic, but I think that we can all agree that it is not the same as in-person learning or having physical space to gather and network in. So that's why we're really excited to launch this small business lab for Mesa businesses. The Small Business Lab really provides a great solution for both virtual options and physical space to provide in-person assistance and training. So the lab is really envisioned to be an active, modern space that will provide access to free resources, technology, and planned engagements, and particularly for those underserved businesses. The Small Business Lab is meant to be a premier small business development space and center that complements and supports the technical assistance program that is already underway. This phase 2 of the studios is really a hybrid model that will offer choices for our clients, for those consultants who are working with the clients, and also service providers with the end goal of meeting the needs of our small business community. Next slide. The space may also be utilized by other organizations to provide workforce training seminars, computer training. We've been doing computer training classes through MCC, and they've been on campus at MCC, which sometimes, depending on the timing, can be challenging. We've been doing evening classes, which is helpful, but this would allow us to offer classes during the day too. And then also skills development for a wide variety of industries. So most of the services in this space will be tailored to those businesses with less access to credit, substantial decline in sales, and then minority-owned entities as well. Workforce development programs and services for individuals and for specific industries can also coexist here. So we see this as a learning space for residents to come and learn more about different workforce opportunities and employment opportunities. And the lab can also be used for city departments like code or PD, safety services, to host small business training and education, to invite people into the space and work with them in kind of a neutral setting. Our intention is to offer high-tech and high-touch resources. We definitely need to have a computer lab in this space for beginner and intermediate computer classes. We'll also be doing additional research from the business community to determine what Mesa small businesses want, not only today, but also looking forward into the future and what they would like to see. There's plenty of space for a number of different options, and we think there's also a demand, for example, for individual privacy pods for phone calls and interviews. So for example, if you are a home-based business, or perhaps you're using your garage as prototyping space or manufacturing space, it would be nice to have a place where you could go that offers quiet space, private space if you're applying for a grant or doing a pitch or even conducting interviews for employees. We also would like to consider offering computer and editing bays, and then a green screen for producing YouTube digital programming or commercials, social media content, and other broadcasting options. So linking with the film school and the students that are there, we think it would be great for small businesses to be able to partner with them in this space to create content. ARPA funding will be used to complete the renovation of the second floor and the basement and build out that space. And this infrastructure project, which it really is an infrastructure project, we believe will increase the momentum for entrepreneurship in Mesa and also just really enhance the small business ecosystem that is already in existence by creating this physical space. And I'll turn it over to Justin now to talk about the details and the scheduling for the construction. He's got it.
Okay.
Yep.
So we're talking about phase 2, which will be the completion of the second floor and basement. It's a little over 17,000 square feet. We have an estimated construction cost of $2.8 million with about $450,000 set up for the FF&E package. Design schedule, we had our initial kickoff meeting workshop on the 10th of this month. So it'll run from January to about July. And then starting in August through November will basically be the procurement under the federal requirements due to the ARPA funding. And then construction will basically take about a year from November 22 to November 23, and that'll wrap up the actual phase 2 of the studios project.
So what happens between now and the opening in November of 2023 while we build this project out? The idea is actually to work with more businesses and to provide more technical assistance in this interim. We are already serving 75 to 100 businesses annually with the general fund dedicated funding of $300,000, and this is the branded Mesa Business Builder Technical Assistance Program. I just wanted to note the picture that I've included here is actually our beginner computer class that completed this fall. These business owners took 10 hours of computer training. Many of them had rarely used a computer. Many of them didn't even have a computer to use. So once they completed their 10 hours of training given by professional faculty from MCC, they each received a laptop, a free laptop, and a subscription to Microsoft Office. And they were thrilled. So we offered the classes in both Spanish and English and graduated more than 20 students in this first beginner class. So just with the additional ARPA dollars of $150,000 per year during the next 2 fiscal years, we'll be able to assist an additional 50 to 100 businesses, particularly those that have been negatively impacted by COVID. The program dollars would fund course development, faculty, laptops, technical training and services, individualized consulting, small group classes, website creation, and SEO optimization, coaching and training. A lot of these businesses are now trying to transition to more of an e-commerce platform, and they really need to understand cybersecurity and what they need to do to make sure that they're digitally ready to get onto those platforms and sell in the digital space. So during Mesa Cares, we also learned that financial literacy was a huge need. Many of the small businesses just really needed basic understanding of how to use debt and how to use credit, how to obtain credit, and get access to financial institutions. So we'll be focusing on that heavily as well. And with that, we will turn it over for questions and feedback.
Questions? Councilmember Smith?
So is this project the second floor and the basement?
It is.
So some of those pictures would be the basement too. Just when you've been in the basement, it feels like a dungeon. So it's surprising to think that it could look like some of those pictures. But so so second floor and the basement.
Yes.
Okay.
So both floors, the second floor and the basement, will be used for the small business development services?
That's correct.
Okay.
Thank you, Vice Mayor and Julie, because I was asking the same question. I was thinking the same lines. So in terms of programming, Office of Economic Development will program this, different from ASU doing their project, right? Tell me the difference between the two.
Sure. Vice Mayor and Councilmember Luna, thank you for the question. There will be differences in programming, absolutely.
Okay.
We actually see it as a complement to what ASU is doing, and we see referrals kind of going back and forth. And then we also see being able to refer out to other spaces in downtown Mesa, like Cahoots and Heat Sink. And we don't want to duplicate anything. We want to complement and make sure that we're in alignment. So we're already working with ASU to find out what their programming looks like. And you know, there may be companies that ASU isn't necessarily the best fit for, but we can certainly assist them at that, maybe that first tier where they're really trying to get a lot more education about how to build their business, and then they can start accessing other services, like even like LaunchPoint, for example.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, where does LaunchPoint fit in this, as well as the hub, which is going to be located at Benedictine? We have all these business incubators that are located in the downtown area. Talk to me about that relationship. How is that all going to work? And I really appreciate the notion that we're going to be working with ASU in terms of using that technology, hopefully to build capacity from some of our small businesses as they launch and use social media or whatever to get their business going.
I'll also let Jeff talk about the Cahoots and Benedictine relationship a little bit more, but I think the benefit to having this space and the Office of Economic Development involved is that it allows us to package all of these assets and really promote downtown Mesa as this innovation center. And it makes it really attractive for entrepreneurs and startups and small businesses to come here and know that there are all of these resources to support them. And I think that if you look at sort of, you know, the continuum of how a business develops, you could come to this resource center and this lab and figure out the best way to start your business, grow your business. Maybe you go into LaunchPoint for a period of time with a small office, and then you graduate to Cahoots and you're in work, you know, co-working space, and then eventually you go into private space. So there are so many different options, and it really depends on where the business is kind of along the continuum in terms of what they want to access. But I think this really helps us fill out that menu of services.
I mean, LaunchSpace, you think about LaunchSpace as kind of a rental location where
LaunchPoint.
LaunchPoint, sorry, where they're actually located their business there.
Right.
That's not, this is a learning experience, a
Right.
lab, right? So that wouldn't conflict. I think Cahoots
So
has.
they'd go there first and then go launch.
Yeah, well, I mean, that could be where we would hopefully have people be able to go
Right.
eventually. But I think this is individual kind of a learning experience, whereas you have Cahoots kind of doing, you know, that, but also just kind of this, you know, putting groups together, right, and developing. Maybe they're further along than what's here. Maybe that becomes the resource. I think ASU, and we can speak, and Jeff can speak more to ASU. ASU could be a business, but maybe just as individuals with ideas, who are developing the idea of a business and surrounding themselves with the technology and trying to prove up their concept. But when they need to think about, well, what does a business need to be successful from a just, you know, like the business side, not necessarily using the technology, maybe this is the space where they can show up. But really for us, I think intentionally, this is for existing small businesses in Mesa anywhere. They could be just in the service industry, right? Not necessarily related to the technology of ASU. I mean, if it is, that's wonderful, but it could just be any simple small business that needs some additional, like the ones we've been helping already. That this would be a physical space for them to show up to. Jeff, why don't you talk a little bit more about what ASU, your thoughts about what the distinction on that is?
Vice Mayor, Council, I think one of the big differences between what we'd want to accomplish in the Small Business Lab and what we're trying to accomplish with the ASU license agreement is with the license agreement with ASU is that we're trying to bring the technology and the academic programming and what they've learned in the academic world and bring that into an innovation space. It may be, as Chris said, more likely that these are individuals that are happy to use this space to try and grow an idea, and that's where they can find the corporate relationships. Hopefully there's going to be corporate partnerships that create the opportunity to have that technology and academic learning translate into the corporate world. Potentially, you know, these would be students that maybe are trying to start a business, and that's where we start to see the overlap between our two worlds, that they can start working with, you know, with our learning lab or with Cahoots or the hub, whatever our ecosystem is going to be actually very amazing down here, I think, from an entrepreneurial perspective. But ASU isn't intending to provide as much business support, existing business support. They're intending to provide innovation entrepreneurial content to help people who have an idea and want to create something. Once they've created something, then we go into the ecosystem of, you've got it created, how do you turn it into a business? How do you make a solid business? And you know, resilient businesses today are very important, and I think that's where a lot of the content that the Economic Development and the Learning Lab could be really helpful with, you know, transitioning to, you know, e-commerce, or, you know, having a green screen room alone could be huge for, you know, producing your own online content.
Now, will the Office of Economic Development, will they have staff there, or how is that going to
I
work?
was going to ask. Yeah, who's running
I'm
this?
sure that, yes, on this,
Yeah.
yeah, we have to have, we're gonna have to have city staff here.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, to be part of this. But I think kind of the concept is the coordination. I think Jay's talked about, you know, and she's done it, I mean, doing it today, right? They bring in consultants, they kind of procure the expertise to come in and do it. But we're gonna have a presence here, there's no doubt,
Yeah,
in
yeah.
being there. But I think the idea is also to open it up for the Chamber of Commerce and
Right.
the consultants we use today, to have them come in and be the content experts, and we would help manage and procure that and offer that. And so obviously, we're gonna have
Yeah.
some kind of staffing here, just like ASU has an individuals coming on the second
Right.
floor, just, you know, helping people to kind of know what's available and
Yeah.
and how. But I think, in my mind, I'm hoping that as much as anything, there's a computer lab there so people can come on and look at, use that. Maybe they can use a green screen, but also that actively there are, we bring in experts, stakeholders from a variety of different groups, like we are today. Not all of it's done online, but they could be doing it in person here. So we would help to procure those services and then offer, you know, a seminar on whatever variety of things that,
Right.
you know, for a small business
Right.
might need.
Yeah, I would hope that we have personnel there, because as it is, I think you guys are stretched too thin with all the things happening in the city of Mesa. Having this on top of it, that we provide additional staffing to support this, because you can't do it in your current capacity. We need to hire additional staff for that.
Appreciate that.
Could Parks and Rec help schedule like they are at the Post, or it would be
No, this will be
completely different?
economic development, ASU would be.
But you'd have to have someone that would be doing scheduling and coordinating.
And that's what they would
Yeah.
probably do, yeah.
And then don't forget, we just talked about doing a workforce development hub with New Leaf and the county, right?
It's
So-
coordinate, yeah, so Natalie and Jay are coordinating the
Okay.
distinctions between what that is, where that may be more related to individuals who are coming out of homelessness, or
Right,
kind of
right.
with New Leaf clients and that. Here, this is really maybe specific to a specific skill set in an industry
Industry.
to help them move forward. So
Okay.
it's,
Well,
we've,
that could
we've traded, I
be
think
part of
there's,
the ecosystem.
I've seen Jay and Natalie have worked through that kind of continuum, what that difference and what it looks like.
Okay, great.
Councilmember Thompson, did you have some questions?
Well, just really just a comment in conjunction with Councilmember Luna's comment of, you know, ensuring that, you know, that if we're going to have to staff the facility, we just need to make sure we're hiring folks and not just, you know, pulling them from one department, sticking them in another, especially with economic development. I think it's important that we have proper staffing levels and not forget what our end goal is for economic development as well. So that's all.
You mentioned Cahoots. So what's the update on Cahoots? How's that connection here on this piece?
So the build out of Cahoots at Benedictine University is coming along very well. We're still targeting this spring to be complete and having an opening. I went and saw it about a month ago, and they were already, you know, finishing drywall. So it's coming along very well. And again, you know, talking about how this fits into the ecosystem. Again, Cahoots is going to have the Cahoots Institute at Benedictine University. So again, talking about how we're trying to create new entrepreneurs is, if you say Benedictine has a nutrition program, let's say you go and you get your degree in nutrition, but you don't want to go be a nutritionist for a company, you want to open your own business, you'll have a membership at the Cahoots Institute, and they'll help you understand what it takes to translate what you learned with your nutrition degree and help create a business with that as well. So, you know, very much the idea is, again, more of an ecosystem where they'll have some programming to help students coming out to become entrepreneurs that can then also come to the business learning lab, the business labs to get additional program connections to other resources like the Chambers of Commerce, like the hub. So this is, again, pretty exciting time for, I think, entrepreneurship and innovation in downtown.
Yeah, I mean, Vice Chair and Council, obviously, as we stand these up, this is exciting, but we will have to spend a lot of time working with each of the groups and probably having regular discussions about, okay, let's make sure as we plan activities and programs that they're helping the ecosystem be like continuous and not overlapping. So we'll have a lot of work to do. We're just super excited that we'll have space that we can bring people in and create the programming. And so that's what we're excited about.
And I would say, I like the idea of the kind of green screen piece, or, you know, other tools that could potentially be supportive, added features as people develop their ideas. You know, things like soundproof rooms for recording. I know ASU will have some of that piece, but I know just being a small business owner, sometimes to create content, you know, you have to either pay a lot to rent out space, or there's just nowhere to rent or to do this type of content. So I think, you know, thinking through some other tools or technology pieces, I just think of the ThinkSpot, right, where we have various different tools and items that people can work with, you know, stuff like that I think maybe are added values to this type of spot, to this type of location, offices that can add value to a person's thinking of how do they create content or how they move their idea into, you know, forward thinking kind of business mind. So that's something that I think if we can think more critically on other tools that we can provide business owners or folks that are looking to set up their business, I think that would be a cool aspect to this location. So,
And Councilmember Heredia, to Councilmember Spilsbury's question, a lot of those uses are ideal for a basement space where it isn't there isn't good light and the sound control is a lot easier.
Councilmember Luna.
Hey, Jeff, are you going to be working with economic development? You know, the kitchen spaces we're going to be providing, it's one thing to learn how to cook and stuff, but to run a business, is there going to be an affiliation with this center as well as the, you know, learning how to cook and do all that?
The restaurant.
The restaurant incubator,
absolutely,
yes.
yeah.
I mean, I can see a direct relation
absolutely.
between both.
Yes, our goal is that there's going to be a link between the two so that we are able to partner with Local First Arizona and have some content provision as well. So while they're teaching them how to run a restaurant, maybe they're coming over to the labs to learn how to run QuickBooks or something along that line. So there is hopefully going to be that strong relationship between the two.
Yeah, we had that conversation with them about that,
Yeah, I would hope that would be a requirement. It's one thing to learn how to cook and do that, but the intricacies in running a restaurant is challenging, and having them go to a facility like this would be ideal.
Well, we've just started drafting our license agreement with Local First, so I'll make note of that to make sure that we'll include that as a requirement.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Well, this is all very exciting, and I think we'll learn and have to change and shift as we practice and get in and see what the businesses need, what our students need, and but the exciting part of it is creating this ecosystem, as you had mentioned, Jeff, from education, even MCC or EVIT or whatever, and then going into entrepreneurship or small business and learning from there, and then launching your business. And that is a tremendous strength and resilience for our city to have an ecosystem of solid businesses. We saw during the pandemic how, wow, the world shifts overnight, and you have to be able to have those resources and abilities to shift your business. Otherwise, you're out of business. So with about 80% of the world is small businesses, I think this is a tremendous resource. I see ASU, and well, again, we'll have to see how it shakes out, but from my conceptual ideas now and understandings is that ASU would be more of a collaboration space, maybe with businesses or students exploring concepts and ideas. And then our economic development really in the shaping of how do you start a small business? How do you, the licensing, the codes, how do you be integrated in technology and things, kind of the operating tools for a business. And ASU is more that exploring new concepts and new ideas. I'm very excited about it. I think it integrates nicely with everything else that we're doing to create a strong city center and a strong city as well. Any other questions or comments, Council? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next item is item 3, is to acknowledge the receipt of various board minutes. May I have a motion for Councilmember Spilsbury, seconded by Councilmember Luna. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that passes. Okay, so the next item on our agenda is current events, including meetings and conferences attended. I know Councilmember Luna has a student.
Yes, I wanted to introduce Sarah. Would you stand up? Sarah Enright. She's a student from Red Mountain High School who's shadowing me today. And interesting enough, go ahead and stand up, Sarah. Her dad and I used to work together at Mesa Public Schools, and I didn't know that until this morning. So welcome, Sarah, and hope you learn something at least from this shadowing. So I appreciate you being here. Thank you. Yeah. Also, I want to thank the MLK committee for sponsoring a wonderful parade. We had a good turnout, and many of us were there, and so I appreciate the committee and putting that parade together. It was great. And we also had the We Run Mesa kickoff last Thursday. Nicole Leba is the chair of the Parks and Recreation Board. Is that correct, Andrea? Mm-hmm. Yes. Anyway, she's been doing this for several years now, and we had a wonderful kickoff over at Eagles Center. So thank you, Nicole, for what you do for our community, and Vice Mayor Duff, you were there as well. So.
Yes, yes.
And that's it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Last Thursday, I attended a ribbon cutting with Councilmember Freeman for RISE Services. They renovated and expanded a building and renamed it, and they were able to open sooner up during the pandemic to help the disabled adults that they serve there. And they're doing amazing work kind of across the country in lots of different states. So really neat organization and neat to hear about what they're doing over there. So and that's it for me.
Anything else? Okay. Mr. Brady, I think you're up next with our schedule of meetings.
Thank you. Just a reminder, we do have our council meeting this coming Monday, January 24th. And I also want to introduce, we probably just didn't have a chance because of the end of the year and retirements, but Chris Hassard is still here. Chris, stand. Yeah, this is our new Water Resources Director. I don't know if all the council have had a chance to meet him, but that's what he looks like. So that's who you need to talk to. And we'll have Chris come around and meet with the council, but I just want to make sure you all knew what he looked like. What's that?
Yeah.
Did he work for?
Yeah, Chris has been with us. How long have you been with us, Chris?
I started in 2017.
17. Before that, he was with the city of Scottsdale?
Yeah, for about
10 years. So he has lots of great experience in this. We're really appreciative of him being able to step up and serve as our Water Resources Director. So I just want to make sure everybody put a face with a name there. Okay.
Congratulations, Chris. So I think that's it, all we have on our agenda today. So if there's a motion to adjourn, Councilmember Luna, and seconded by Councilmember Spilsbury, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And we are adjourned. Thank you.